They spoke of Earth with the same condescension one reserves for a petting zoo that accidentally birthed a lion. In the war room of the Galactic Assembly, where empires had crumbled and entire moons had been bartered away in silence, Supreme Strategist Trelliker's voice slithered through holograms of human dossiers. "A single man," he said, claws interlaced behind his plated back. "One human. Outdated musculature. Preneural tech. No genetic enhancements. They call him Baba Yaga." Snickers rippled through the chamber. One hunter, a photosynthetic warrior with 2 hearts and a blade spine, leaned forward. "Why send us for a folklore?" Trelliker's tongue flicked once. "Because he's not a myth. He's a consequence." A ripple passed through the assembled killers, an odd silence from beings used to wearing their teeth like jewelry. A faint recording began to play in the chamber, garbled Earth Russian, distorted by time. No translation was offered. None was needed. 3 jumps away, beneath a soot-colored sky, Earth breathed through the fog of a northern morning. Pines stood like ancient sentinels. The mist clung to the mountains as if afraid of the stillness below. Inside a cabin carved from forgotten wars and quiet grief, a man boiled water over a wood stove. He moved slowly, deliberately. He stirred tea with the care of a surgeon. John Wick. No one called him that anymore. The few who remembered used only nods. In the deep codes of former human wars, he'd once been listed as a mechanism. Not a soldier. Not a man. A decision you sent when no other decisions worked. The dog, a quiet old hound with more scars than fur, whined beside the fireplace. Wick looked down, smiling faintly, and placed half a biscuit on the worn rug. His knuckles were the only hint of what he used to be. Scarred, thickened. Their bones clearly set more than once. Everything else was simple. Clean shirt, flannel, gray streak in his beard, eyes that carried too much and offered nothing. Above the cabin, something clicked. Not a bird. A drone. Microscopic. Alien. Wick didn't look up. He finished his tea, cracked his neck, reached for the small wooden box beside the kettle. He opened it. Inside, 3 coins. 1 sharpened pencil. And a photo, old, color-faded. A woman with a smile that looked like forgiveness. He closed the box, stood, and whistled once. The hound rose. The drone blinked twice before vanishing into the tree canopy. Let them watch. Let them come. In orbit, the hunters assembled. 7 ships shaped like blades. 7 killers with reputations spanning 5 systems. Each of them had survived planetary wars, black hole dives, and the inside of Krell prison fields. Their leader, a 6-armed predator from the Hithari tribes, rotated her lower mandibles. "So the plan is land, neutralize, leave? Bring his head," Trelliker instructed from the projection window. "Alive if possible. But do not underestimate Earth's capacity for unpleasantness." One of the hunters, a green-skinned creature with obsidian eyes, flicked through Earth's cultural footage. "They have movies about him," he scoffed. "Dogs, pencils, the word retired. They're obsessed with metaphor." Another chimed in, laughing. "He once killed a man with a library book. Is that true?" Silence. "Wait," said the smallest hunter, a floating telepathic orb with no limbs, but a reputation for precision intel. "That wasn't metaphor." The others stared. "That actually happened. In a control chamber buried beneath Europa's ice shell, an Earth liaison named Cassidy sipped tea and pretended not to smile. The screen before her displayed the alien hunter fleet approaching Earth's perimeter. She tapped a comm. "Wick," she said softly. "Nothing." She tried again. "You were right. They took the bait." She closed the screen. A small painting hung behind her, Earth in the center, surrounded by orbiting alien skulls. The caption read, "Humans, smiling since extinction failed." That night, Wick sat alone by the fire. He sharpened the pencil with a folding knife, watching the shavings fall into the ashtray. The wind outside shifted. He listened. 3 knocks on the door. Too polite to be anything but hostile. He rose, opened it. No one. But he saw it just at the edge of the tree lane. A shimmer. A cloak. a silhouette moving too still to be natural. He looked down. A small coin sat on the doorstep. Silver. Alien. Insulting. A declaration of hunt. He picked it up, felt the weight, then closed the door gently, as though sealing something in. Or out. He whispered to the dog. 3 knocked. 1 answered. In the alien warship above the Rockies, the hunters began final descent. The orb floated in anxious spirals. Why send us? Because, said the Hithari leader, this time they want him to notice. But why? The orb pressed. Because Earth doesn't escalate wars. It ends them. Quietly. They descended through night clouds. Lightning laced the horizon. The ship's scan pinged off multiple reflections, interference too complex for one human. But none of the team paused. They never asked why the interference resembled laughter. Far below, Wick stood by an old grave behind his cabin. The wood was worn, but the name still showed beneath the moss. Helen Wick. He left a penny on the stone, then turned. His face had changed. The warmth remained in the eyes, but they no longer searched for light. Now they searched for silence. He whispered into the trees. I'm tired of waiting. The wind shifted again, and 7 stars above Earth blinked. Not out of sight, out of existence. At the Galactic Council, alarms rang. 7 hunters. No signal. Trelliker frowned. No, he couldn't have. The orb burst into the chamber, whispering. He didn't wait. He lured them. A screen flickered to life. Static. Then a feed. Wick's cabin. Empty. But on the door, written in ash, 1 word remained. Begin. And in a small corner of a forgotten system, a comm signal echoed through dark matter bands, picked up only by older relay stations from a war most had forgotten. It was Earth Standard, encrypted in something called Morse. The translation pinged on Trelliker's desk like a death rattle. If you hunt ghosts, pray your house was never made of glass. He dropped the coin in his clawed hand. It burned cold. They came down in silence. 3 hunter teams. 3 different landings. The plan was simple. Divide, isolate, exterminate. It was arrogance in disguise. Each believed the others would finish the job if they didn't. None believed the human would survive the night. The first landed in what Earth once called Siberia, where snow fell like ash and silence was older than the bones buried beneath it. The trio Nkresh the Spine Eater, Valta the Echo Killer, and a hovering hex-limbed drone simply called 5, descended beneath a frozen sky, their heat signatures invisible to most species. Most. The station they entered was long abandoned. Soviet lettering peeled from walls. Cables hung like vines. A rusted gramophone sat on a metal desk, untouched by time. It began to play. Sinatra. Soft. Crooning. Fly me to the moon. Nkresh raised a plasma cannon, its heat sensors confused. Valta tilted her head. A trap. 5 scanned the room. No explosives. No drones. No. A click. The ceiling collapsed. Valta vanished in a scream of twisted rebar and sharpened steel. Nkresh fired upward, blinded by dust. The drone spun erratically. Movement. There, behind the desk. A shadow. Nkresh lunged, blade extended. The desk was empty. Then the lights died. They didn't come back on. In the dark, something whispered. Not in alien tongue. Not in Earth English. But in a sound older than both. The sound of breath just before the strike. Seconds later, only one sound remained. The crackle of old vinyl, skipping over static, echoing through a room where no one was left to hear it. The second team chose the Sahara. They came armored for war. Heat shields. Vibration tracking. Subsurface sonar. They laughed when they landed. One hunter, Varnock, a hulking beast in obsidian armor, scoffed at the dunes. This world burns itself. How did they ever survive? Another, Scylla, activated a ground mapping scanner. Nothing within 50 kilometers. No signs of architecture or weapon emplacements. The third, a mantis-like tactician named Creel, was quiet. He looked at the horizon. Too open, he muttered. He wouldn't run. Varnock chuckled. You mistake him for a soldier. He's just a man. Scylla turned, scanning the sand again. I'm picking up micro-reflections. Could be glass weight, no lenses. Creel spun. Move. The sun shifted. Magnified. A flash seared through the air. The heat lenses, dozens of them, hidden under precisely arranged sand and wire, ignited simultaneously. One by one, the team combusted. No bullets. No blades. Just physics. And cruelty. And timing. Only Creel lived long enough to scream. Above Earth, the Council received the silence. Trelliker paced the glass corridor of the warship. His claws tapped the railing like the ticking of a too-slow clock. They're not responding. They are dead, said the orb flatly. Trelliker snarled. Impossible. These are apex killers. No, the orb replied. They were. He floated closer to the terminal and replayed the signal intercepted from the outpost in orbit. Wick's voice, barely audible through wind and static, filtered through the room. You don't find me. You follow the trail. Trelliker growled. He's mocking us. No, said the orb. He's inviting us. The third team, the ones who thought they'd track Wick directly, landed near his cabin. The only team who came close. 4 of them. All of them quiet. Precise. They moved through the woods like smoke, unseen, unfeeling, unafraid. One knelt beside a set of tracks. Human. Barefoot. He's close, she said. Another sniffed the air. He's not running. He's watching. They surrounded the cabin from 4 directions. Inside, the lights were on. Tea still steamed. A fire crackled. Empty. They moved in. The first one died stepping through the threshold. A sharpened pressure trap split her chest in 2. No gunfire. Just gravity and engineering. The second was strangled in the hallway, silently. Her body wasn't found for 48 hours. Not that anyone survived to find it. The third, a tall insectoid named Dreg, found a photograph near the fireplace. A woman, smiling. Human joy, printed on glossy paper. Behind it, etched into the wood, a message. I didn't start this. Then a sound. 1, 2, 3 knocks. Dreg turned. Wick stood in the doorway, a hammer in one hand, his face calm. I told you to knock, he said. Then he moved. The fight wasn't long. Dreg had speed, enhancements, armor. Wick had distance calculation, joint memory, muscle economy. 2 strikes. 1 crack. Silence. Only one alien survived. A scout. Small. Fast. Scared. Wick cornered him outside in the trees. The scout dropped his weapon, panting in a language Wick probably didn't know. But fear? That translated just fine. Wick didn't strike. He knelt. Handed the scout something. A coin. Silver. Tell them, he said, voice like still water. Tell them Earth didn't ask for this. The scout ran. By the time he reached orbit, he could barely speak. They scanned his mind. Images burst through the feed. Traps, shadows, the hammer. But more than that, control. The human wasn't berserk. He wasn't frenzied. He was surgical, strategic, patient. He let us land, the scout whispered. He let us walk. Trelliker's face twisted. Enough. We send the fleet. No, the orb said, voice trembling. You send them, and you'll lose them. Are you afraid of one human? The admiral sneered. No, the orb replied. I'm afraid he's not alone. Wick sat beneath a tree, legs stretched, the dog curled beside him. He cleaned the hammer slowly, methodically. He didn't look like a warrior. He looked like a man thinking about dinner. But his eyes, they didn't blink often. The cabin stood behind him, quiet. He looked up at the sky. They'll send more, he said, to no one in particular. The dog raised its head. Wick reached into his pocket, pulled out a coin, tossed it. It landed in the dirt, edge up, balanced. He sighed. Then I suppose it's time for old habits. He stood, walked to the shed, opened it. Inside a rifle, a notebook, a radio, and 3 more hammers. He took the radio, tapped once. Cassidy's voice crackled through. Status. They knocked, Wick said. Silence. Did you answer? Wick stared out at the trees. Not all of them. He clicked off the radio. In orbit, alarms began to sound. The outer beacons, one by one, flickered out. Not jammed. Just gone. Trelliker stood from his command chair. What is this? The orb closed its eye. It's his trail. In the Council archives, a file decrypted. One buried under Human War Psychology, subtype 001. It read, John Wick. Status, retired. Classification, Human Contingency Tier Alpha. Threat level, existential. Strategy, passive lure/active terminator. Special directive, never engage alone. It ended with a simple phrase, untranslated from Russian. Once he left, and they thought the war was over. Back in the woods, the dog stood before Wick. Its ears perked. Wick leaned down. You can stay, he said, but it's going to get loud. He turned toward the distant road. In the fading light, 3 shadows emerged. Not aliens. Humans. One old, limping. One young, sharp-eyed. One smiling. Wick nodded. The old man handed him a coat. Black. Wick slipped it on like a prayer. They sent hunters, Wick said. The woman tilted her head. Did they find anything? He looked back at the burning cabin. Then at the coin still standing in the dirt. No, he said softly. They got found. The cabin was a crater now. Ash curled from the soil like old breath, and the wreckage whispered a single truth. He had never intended to make a last stand. He'd made a stage. The council ship hovered just above the treeline, broadcasting emergency retrieval orders. It didn't matter. The damage was done. 3 hunter teams, gone. No return signal. No surviving footage. Just a single surviving scout, and the look in his eyes wasn't fear anymore. It was awe. He trembled in the medical bay, whispering what he saw like prayer fragments. He knew our weapons. He knew our pathing routes, our pulse signatures. He used the echoes of our own footsteps to time his strikes. Trelliker didn't look up from a terminal. He's human. He bleeds. The orb floated nearby, unmoving. He does not fight like prey. He fights like memory. Meaning. Meaning he doesn't kill to win, the orb whispered. He kills to teach. The admiral grunted. Then let's give the teacher something new to learn. They dropped the 4th team near the Black Ridge twilight forest, riddled with wind caves and echo chambers. Tactical blindness for anyone not trained for echo displacement. The team's name was STYX. They weren't bounty hunters. They were assassins of assassins. Each of them wore graviton suppressors and ultradense armor. Plasma lances. Neuralink hounds. They didn't speak on missions. Only nodded. Their leader, Varys, stood tall and plated, with a jaw like a broken stone and 4 greenlit eyes. Objective. Capture, if possible. Maim if not. Kill only if absolutely necessary. Understood. They fanned out. No footprints. No heat trail. Only quiet. Varys tapped his helmet. Scan interior perimeter. Split. No response. Echo 5. Silence. He turned. Echo 5 was gone. No sound. No trace. Just a pencil. Standing in the dirt. Varys blinked. Repeat, I need visual. A whistle cut the air. Old earth tune. Something warbled and haunting. Singing in the rain. 3 of his team spun, sensors flaring. Nothing. No, wait. They checked again. 1 reading. Human. Walking. Casual. 20 meters away. They aimed. The plasma didn't fire. The guns had been sabotaged. Varys dropped to a crouch. EMP. No, came a voice behind him, soft and dry. Just unplugged. He turned. Wick stood in the open, shirt sleeves rolled up, holding a wrench in one hand. A pencil behind his ear. He tilted his head. Problem with plasma, Wick said, is that it makes you trust it. Then he moved. There was no wasted motion. He didn't leap or roar or duck. He stepped, pivoted, broke a neck, spun a disarmed weapon around, used it as a bludgeon, dropped another. Then came the pencil. Varys watched as one of his best, Echo 3, was killed with nothing more than a sharpened graphite and cold intent. There was no shouting, no gunfire, just soundless collapse. like paper folding inward. Varys ran. No shame. No hesitation. That was the protocol. He activated his beacon. Emergency evac. He's not fighting to win. He's harvesting. The orb heard this from orbit. What does that mean? It means, Varys panted, he knows we're watching. Then the comm died. The next transmission was from a tree-mounted camera. One of their own. Footage showed Wick walking away from the scene. Bloody. Calm. Whistling. Behind him, a message carved into a tree with the same pencil. Try harder. On the flagship, panic rippled beneath protocol. Trelliker stared at the footage. It's one man. No, the orb said. He's an expression. Cassidy Yin's voice broke through their open comm frequency. Her tone was smooth, conversational. She sounded like someone hosting a tea party. Hi there, she began, as though she hadn't been listening to war feeds for 6 hours. I'm Cassidy, Earth Liaison, and I'd like to ask one little question. The channel froze. Everyone listened. Did you think we didn't know what you'd try? Did you think we left him alone? Trelliker's jaw tightened. What are you saying? You've been following breadcrumbs. Ones he placed. You're not chasing a human. You're walking into a play. The orb floated forward. Wait. Are you saying? John Wick, Cassidy said, was retired. We woke him up. The council watched the surviving hunter, Varys, float unconscious in stasis. Broken arm. 2 ribs punctured. Internal bleeding. On his chest was a symbol, drawn in blood. A crude sketch of a man in a suit, smiling. A suit Wick hadn't worn in 15 years. In the hidden bunker beneath the Smoky Mountains, Wick sat across from 3 men in faded black. Veterans of old operations. The kind history books referred to as necessary errors. They drank quietly, shared no names. One finally said, he's pushing them. Hard, said another. Fast. Why? Wick looked at them. His voice was soft. Because this time they sent hunters to Earth. And Earth needs to remind the stars, Wick said, what it buries in peace. He stood, took his coat. He didn't take the pistol on the table, only the pencil. On the outer rim, a signal flared. A trap. A message. Alien beacons were found, rewired, blinking in Earth Morse. When decoded, they spelled a single phrase. Let's end this where it began. The coordinates pointed to Polaris Station, a place Wick had once ended a war. The council hesitated, but Trelliker's fury clouded judgment. He ordered the fleet. The ships arrived. Polaris Station was cold, empty, decommissioned years ago. Nothing but old steel and shadows. Until the doors opened. Inside, 7 bodies. Not alien, human. Security footage played automatically. Wick's face. Not smiling. Not angry. Just watching. He placed items on a table. 7 alien weapons. 7 tags. A coin. A pencil. He looked directly at the camera. I'm not Earth's weapon, he said. I'm its memory. And the feed went black. In the silence that followed, Trelliker sat frozen. The orb moved closer. You don't understand what he's doing, do you? The Admiral bared his teeth. He's making war. No, said the orb. He's teaching you war. Trelliker shouted. Then bring all ships. Bring 10 legions. Burn everything. But even as he raged, the room darkened. A shadow fell across the command deck. One of their own satellites played a sound. Earth jazz. Saxophone. Dusty. Then Wick's voice. Calm. I told you to knock. Then static. Then a single data pulse that shut down 29 council systems simultaneously. No virus. No bomb. Just knowledge. Trapped inside the signal. Waiting. Like him. Waiting. On Earth, Wick stood beneath a storm-torn sky. His coat flared behind him. His dog waited silent. A child walked up, a courier. No older than 10. She handed him a message. From Cassidy. He read it. Then folded it twice. Put it in his coat. The girl asked, Are you going to stop them? Wick looked down. No. Why? Because, he said, they're not coming to win. Then why are they coming? He paused. To remember. In the final council chamber, Trelliker held the coin found on one of the bodies. Human currency. Dull. Bent. But when tilted just right, it reflected something engraved on the edge. A name. Not Wick's. Helen. He frowned. What is this? The orb hovered over the coin. Read it. Then spoke 2 words. They made it personal. And somewhere in the cold silence of the outer sector, the last alien hunter, Kralin the Bone Carver, landed at his destination. He stepped from his drop pod, looked up, and saw the sky blink out. 1 star, then 3, then the whole field. A whisper came from behind him. Not a roar, just a voice. Dry, low, precise. I'm not behind you. Kralin turned anyway. Too late. They brought the fleet. Over 500 warships, 9 siege cruisers, 3 council destroyers, and the ceremonial flagship Sovereign Judgment, all descending like gods draped in steel and pride. From the stars, Earth looked soft. Blue. Green. Quiet. So they broadcast warnings, not requests. This is your final call, Trelliker announced across human comm channels. Surrender the entity known as John Wick. Disarm all planetary defenses. Comply or be extinguished. No reply came. Only static. Then, music. Soft. Cracking. Blue Moon, hummed by an old Earth voice, filtered through analog distortion. Confused, they tried again. Trelliker barked at the communications officer. Repeat signal. It's looping, sir, the alien muttered. There's no origin source. No sooner had he spoken than one of the outermost ships blinked from the map. No explosion. Just vanished. A ripple passed through the fleet. Several captains barked reports. Sensor readings corrupted. Star charts rewrote themselves. A lieutenant on Deck 9 murmured, "We're not over Earth anymore." The stars were wrong. The constellations inverted. The ship's gyroscopes showed negative coordinates. Space that didn't exist. The trap had never been on Earth. It had always been out here. Trelliker screamed, "Where are we?" The orb floated in silence. "I told you," it whispered. "He lured you." One by one, ship visuals flickered. Old images. Footage of Wick walking through forests. Sitting with a woman on a bench. Holding a child's drawing. Not war footage. Not propaganda. Memories. "These aren't weapons," a technician gasped. "These are anchors," said the orb. "He left imprints in our systems. Breadcrumbs. He infected our curiosity." A new signal spiked. Visual only. Wick. Standing atop a derelict satellite. Coat flapping in solar wind. No oxygen mask. No weapon visible. He looked into the camera. His voice calm, clear, and final. "You sent hunters to my doorstep. You sent ships to my sky. But you never asked why I left the war." Trelliker snarled. "Fire everything." Cannons lit up. Beams lanced across space. But Wick had already stepped away. The satellite exploded. It was empty. The beam hits triggered fail-safes across dozens of cloak mines, ancient Earth tech, retrofitted to mimic harmless debris. They detonated in sequence. 1, 2, 5, 30. The explosions weren't just physical. They were coded. Disruptors, AI rot, corrupted vision feeds, signal inversion. The fleet was blind. Aboard the Sovereign Judgment, emergency klaxons howled as ship AIs failed one by one. Then the internal lights flickered. One of the walls twisted, not from damage, but from pressure. From inside, the Admiral's personal guard readied weapons. Status report. A technician sobbed, "We're breached." "By what?" Silence. Then a whisper across the deck. Not spoken. Breathed. "He's on board." Trelliker turned. A shadow moved past the command column. No door opened. No noise. Just presence. A single body. Measured. Relentless. John Wick stepped into the light. His coat dripped ash. His face calm. He didn't hold a gun. Only a coin. He tossed it. It rolled. Echoed. Then he spoke. "You started something you can't finish." Trelliker screamed and lunged with a plasma blade. Wick sidestepped. Let it pass. One step forward. One motion. The blade fell. So did the arm that held it. Trelliker stumbled, shrieking. The command crew backed away. Not from fear. From instinct. Predator recognition. Wick walked forward, slow and sure. The guards fired. Missed. Not because he dodged. Because he wasn't there by the time the trigger clicked. Each round felt like it hit the past. One by one, the guards fell. No wasted moves. No theatricality. Just consequence. When it was done, Trelliker was bleeding, crawling toward the command console. Why, he choked. Why are you doing this? Wick crouched. Not close. Just enough. Because I asked to be left alone. A pause. And you brought fire to my door. Trelliker coughed blood. You're just one man. Wick leaned in. No, he said softly. I'm what one man becomes when you forget he's not alone. Across the stars, Earth's fleet uncloaked. Not the old ships. New ones. Black-hulled, silent. No insignia. No anthem. Just resolve. They hadn't been late. They had waited. Waited for Wick to say when. In seconds, the remaining council ships were surrounded. No fire exchanged. Just a message. We smiled. You didn't ask why. Back aboard Sovereign Judgment, Wick stood over the shattered command console. He pressed one button. A hidden broadcast echoed through every ship in the Council's armada. A simple file. Footage of the Council approving Wick's execution order. Footage of their scouts landing. Footage of Wick's life. His wife. His retreat. And finally, the list of others like him. Names redacted. But the message clear. John Wick was not the only one. He was the warning. In the galactic core, panic bloomed. All communications went dark. The orb, silent since the breach, floated into Wick's path. You won, it said. Wick looked at it. I survived. Same thing. No. The orb hovered closer. Then what comes next? Wick paused. Looked at the stars. Then back at the coin. I go home. Cassidy Ean stood in the Europa observation deck, sipping tea. She watched as each council ship went dark, one by one, without resistance. She turned to the envoy beside her, an ambassador from the Centauri colonies. He looked pale. You planned this, he whispered. She raised her brow. No, she said. We waited for them to write their own eulogy. He swallowed. He'll kill again. Cassidy shrugged. Maybe. But you should worry less about him. Then who? She smiled and gestured to the display, to the ones he trained. In a quiet cabin, deep in restored forest, the lights flickered back on. The dog barked once. Wick stepped through the door, coat dusted, shoulders loose. He knelt beside the hearth, fed the fire, watched it rise. Outside it rained. He poured tea, sipped, sighed, then reached into his coat and placed the coin, now scorched and bent, on the mantel. Beside it, the photo of Helen. He whispered something only the fire heard, then leaned back and closed his eyes. Outside the stars shimmered. One by one, systems would rewrite themselves. Policies would be questioned. Alliances reformed. But in a forest on a quiet earth, a ghost finally rested. For now, until someone forgot again.